Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Akwa Basibom State. Beautiful Thursday morning. Is it Thursday or Friday?
It's Friday.
Oh my goodness. That's something to celebrate. It's a beautiful Friday morning. I wonder why my man is on Thursday, but it's a good one.
You still needed some extra day.
No, not at all.
You're one of those people who are, praying that November doesn't end quick, so you get to hustle a lot more.
I want the year to even end. Good morning, everyone. It's so good to be here on Rise and Shine this morning. Of course, we are coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. My name is Uyai Anyeka, and good morning and thanks for joining us.
And I am Francis Oyima Edet. Glad to have you join us. It's Friday, and while you're getting ready to put on your dancing shoes to celebrate the weekend, the time to rest, and a lot of parties, a lot of celebrations, a lot of marriages happening. It's literally like Friday evening, Saturday, Sundays these days. Everybody wants to get married, and if you just pay attention to the scribbles on social media. Some persons are like, please don't marry my husband or don't marry my wife. I'm still hustling. I've not reached that point yet. But yeah, this is Rise and Shine, Friday edition. We'll be talking Nigeria, Africa, and the world. It's a global village, and you're always encouraged to be part of the growing community. Of course, you can find all our social media platforms on SpectrumTvLive.ng. The phone numbers will also be on your screen, so you can leave us a direct message, a WhatsApp message, or a call to be part of the conversation this morning.
Well, of course, we have a myriad of things on the table. We'll just run through them. And we have some guests on standby to have serious conversation. Remember, yesterday we had promised that Victor Anilaju is going to return this morning for us to have conclusively our conversation with him from yesterday. And that is a promise that is going to be kept this morning. But, of course, we see this morning just a rundown of what to expect on Rise and Shine this morning. Federal government has declared a state of emergency in the health sector. Senate has summoned service chiefs and demands a rejig in the security sector. We also see the fact that the finance minister, Ebu, is saying that I beg your pardon, is saying that Nigeria cannot rely on borrowing for the 2024 budget. That's a big one. Like we continue to say, we are making money. We shouldn't rely on borrowing. Well, we also see the fact that Peter Obi is tackling the federal government. He has asked them, if you said you inherited an empty treasury or too much of deficit, declare exactly what you inherited. It's becoming hot in the opposition versus the leadings. Right now, we also see the fact that a big one, something that is becoming a trend in Africa, Malawian president has, instructed a cutback on travel expenses for himself and his cabinet members. He's also cut down on the fuel supply, the amount of fuel supply for cabinet members. What exactly is happening in other parts of Africa that their leaders are really first considering cutbacks on, the financial expenses of cabinet members. We also see the fact that 22 Court of Appeal justices have been nominated for the 2022 Supreme Court. We also see here that there is a need to curb certain trends of arms proliferation in Africa. And the European Union is voting 24.4 million euros for that. These and more are some of the conversations we are going to have on Rise and Shine this morning. Stay with us.
Rise and Shine. Rise and Shine.
Of course, starting our conversation this morning on a very first flash news comes from the health sector, where the federal government has declared a state of emergency in the Nigerian health sector. Of course, the federal government declared a state of emergency and highlighted stakeholders across the country converge in Ekiti State for the 65th National Council on Health, where salient issues around the health sector were up for discussions. At the opening ceremony, which happened yesterday, Thursday, It was an avenue to set the tone around the theme, which focuses on building resilience and an inclusive healthcare system for a healthy Nigeria. Of course, the coordinating Minister for Health and Social Welfare, Dr. Muhammad Ali Pate, said the nation's health facilities are in bad shape, adding that there is a need for an urgent intervention. Of course, in the same vein, as Governor of Ekiti State, Biodun Oyebanji, in his remarks, said the state received with great excitement the offer to host the 64th National Council on Health and the prospect of having all the distinguished delegates from across the nation, including international stakeholders in health policy development in the state for the agenda-setting council meeting. Of course, a lot of issues were discussed at the conference bordering on health. But declaring a state of emergency, yeah, I think this is something that most Nigerians will appreciate and welcome coming from the early hours of this present administration. We're talking about brain drain being a major focus, a major issue. We're talking about the fact that the Nigerian Medical Association, the NMA, the National Association of Resident Doctors, and ARD have all been conversing for the federal government to, prioritize investment in the health sector. They've also been calling for the policy implementation of the one-for-one, initiative that was signed into law some time back. And then, of course, where one medical personnel leaves, another is replaced immediately without necessarily waiting for a time when the government is going to conduct an all-round, all-inclusive, recruitment processes for the different MDS. So if we're declaring a state of emergency, Nigerians are excited, but what's the commitment on the part of the government as a state of the emergency has been declared? We're looking at funding for the health sector, you're looking at personnel, you're looking at infrastructure as has been alleged by Ali Pate. These are some of the very serious concerns. And we're also looking at the security and welfare of medical officials. I mean, in recent times, it seems literally in some states, there is a trend where medical personnel are the target of kidnaps, and the NMA across the country and the different states, particularly the high risk areas, are not taking it lightly.
Well, there's something that we need to really review in terms of the health sector. One of the things that the Nigerian Medical Association has also been clamoring for is for the federal government to try and provide the one-on-one replacement in terms of when one doctor leaves, replace that one immediately, so that patients can have medical practitioners to address the issues that they come to these facilities with. Indeed, I don't think that I don't think it's news to hear that a state of emergency has been declared in the health sector. That sector has it has been in a state of emergency for the longest possible time. We are looking at infrastructural decadence. We are looking at the fact that there is a strong impact of brain drain. We are also looking at the fact that welfare is a problem for our, medical practitioners in the country. Not to even talk about how much resources do we invest in medical research in the country to be able to tailor out solutions that, medical solutions tailored for the Nigerian, citizenry, the Nigerian populace, how much of, resources put out for research. So there's a lot of things to be looked at. Also, we know the fact that in the budget coming for 2024, it has been advised that, the health sector should receive, I think it was a 15% budgetary allocation that was asked for the longest time. Also, these request has been on the rise. Let us increase how much budgetary allocation that we give to the health sector. And let's see, now that Ali Pate is the one that is at the helms of affairs, I mean, he has a long list of, he has a repertoire of great works that he has done in the sector, nationally and internationally for that matter. Let's see, bringing that expertise and level of knowledge to the table, will he be able to negotiate? Because I think it's also a matter of negotiation with the federal government. It goes beyond just having a good person or someone who knows what to do. It's also being able to sell your sector or your ministry to the presidency, to the National Assembly, for them to buy your needs and be able to look into it. Yes, the health sector has been in a state of emergency for the longest time. Now, the agency, the ministry led by Ali Pate, the federal government, is, currently declaring a state of emergency. But like you said, the most important thing is, after declaring a state of emergency, what exactly is the federal government willing to do to make sure that it doesn't stay in that situation? In terms of security, when you hear that a state of emergency has been declared, they just, put things on ground to make sure that it gives, the federal government, it gives the security agencies, for instance. So in this case, it will give the health sector enough time to look into what exactly their problems are, prefer solutions, and look for ways to implement the solutions that they bring upon. So beyond declaring a state of emergency, what is the federal government going to do in the health sector? There's a lot of questions that has been asked. I mean, every now and then we're seeing doctors in different states embarking on a strike. What exactly is the federal government's intention with this declaration? What is the blueprints of the renewed hope agenda, for the health sector? It's easy to say, oh, Mr. President has this, has that blueprint implementation. How is he currently working in hand with Ali Pate to make sure that those promises that were made with regards to health in his renewed hope agenda is, currently being executed around the country? But then, let's move on to a very next, flash story this morning, hoping that this state of emergency is the beginning of brand, good news in the health sector. We see the fact that the Senate has summoned service chiefs and they're demanding security rejig. But I know that just of recent, Ribadu, the NSA boss, has just said that security has been better under the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, when you say that the Senate is calling in, calling in service chiefs and asking them to, rejig the security sector, what exactly are we speaking from two sides of the mouth? I also think it was this meeting that instead of the service chiefs going to attend the meeting, they send their representatives, and then the National Assembly sent them home. Let the bosses come and answer the questions. Stop sending representatives. Let's leave the issues on the board. But of course, they were summoned on Thursday over the unremitting insecurity in the country. Now, we also see the fact that the Red Chamber said it would engage the service chiefs in a closed session. It was the lawmakers who demanded that a national security policy document outlining the framework for an improved and streamlined synergy and coordination among the various security agencies in the country be brought to bear. We see the fact that the Senate resolutions followed a motion moved by Senator Abdulaziz Yaradua. Now, the contemporary security landscape in Nigeria poses unprecedented challenges that outstrip the protective capabilities of any security agency alone. So the big question is, when the landscape that we have in Nigeria is incapable of providing any kind of succor, what then is the fate of security agencies in Nigeria? Let's even look at it. In the couple of the last 2-3 months, we've had lots and lots of, there was an airstrike somewhere in Bauchi, there was an airstrike somewhere here, we have raided a hideout of Boko Haram kidnappers and all of those kinds of things. It sounds like there's been progress, but this probe is telling us that we are still far from the intentions of the federal government in terms of security.
Well, as far as security is concerned, I think it's about time for the National Assembly to put their feet to it and rise to their responsibilities. It's been an all-comers at first. It's been a laissez-faire attitude on the part of government appointees, and that is the step that has been followed immediately by the appointees of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. I see no reason why people who have been entrusted with very critical responsibilities would boycott summons by the National Assembly. You're being asked to come tell Nigerians, tell the National Assembly members how you are fighting the insecurity in the country, and you're sending your subordinates to go represent you, whereas the bulk of the responsibility is on your desk, is on your table. It's your responsibility. And if there is anybody who should delegate roles, it shouldn't be the security chief. Are we now saying that as far as security is concerned, you were just being given the appointment, and for you to be able to do that, you are going to depend solely on the brains of your subordinates to be able to do what needs to be done? I mean, it's a height of irresponsibility on the part of these appointees of government. But Nigerians particularly love the fact that the Senate stood its ground and are demanding the service chief. But beyond that, Nigerians are also asking, I think it's about time for the National Assembly to put a piece of legislation in place to punish appointees of government who refuse to show up when they're being summoned to give accountability or to give information on what is happening in their respective offices as far as Nigeria is concerned. But why is the National Assembly moving for the rejigging security? In as much as the NSA boss Ribadu has said, security has increased, he's also making excuses. As at this morning, he's telling Nigerians to be patient with, the leadership of the country, with the NSA and other security agencies in the country, that the situation they inherited was not something that could go, away overnight, and it's not something that would just, be weeks away. But that is not what Nigerians want to hear. Yes, we know the insecurity situation has been on for the longest time, from the time of former President Goodluck Jonathan to the time of Muhammadu Buhari, now to Ahmed Bola Tinubu. Yes, Nigeria knows. They can trace the history of how long insecurity has been. We've also had, different promises made by successive administration on how they're going to rid Nigeria of insecurity in days, in months, in years. And down the line, at the end of the administration, 4 years run to 8 years, nothing has happened. I mean, we're still getting to make the same line of excuses. So Nigerians don't want to get the excuse from Ribadu at this point in time. Nigerians want to hear, what is the blueprint? What is the master plan? What are your moves? What things are you putting in place to ensure that, the Nigerian armed forces are going to put an end definitely to the insurgencies, to terrorism, to banditry, to kidnapping, the killings and murdering of Nigerians in their sleep, in their communities, in their farms, the sacking of communities. That's what Nigerians want to hear. They don't want to hear excuses.
Well, we don't want to hear excuses, and a build-up to excuses is bad policies and bad implementation style. We see now with regards to finance and economy that the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of Economy, Wale Edu, is saying that Nigeria can't rely on borrowing to fund its 2024 budget. Now, of course, he's saying the best way for Nigeria to fund its budget is to spend money on infrastructure development to generate more revenue. Instead of going to borrow, he's saying spend the money that you currently have, develop infrastructure in the country so that it can generate funds for you. It's also looking at the fact that these are some of the most important things we need to look at, even as the committee has been set up to look into the 2024-2026 medium-term expenditure framework, MTEF, and fiscal strategy paper, FSP. Now, I think another issue that we have with regards to this is having intelligent conversations around strong issues. When you hear the likes of Wale Edu coming out to postulate these kinds of things, it sounds really intelligent, and like we'd always say, we have great men and we have great minds in Nigeria. How to bring that together and let it work for us is usually a problem. Now we see, the coordinating minister of economy has said, we see what our problem is and we see the loophole. This is a strategy for how, we can take ourselves out of here. But now this is one thing he can say to the National Assembly. It is something that he can say to the presidency. What willingness, how much willingness do we have on the part of these two arms, the executive and then the presidency, for these, very lofty advice to be implemented? Of course, we are looking at the fact that the environments that we have currently internationally as well as nationally, is not such a time that we should be relying on borrowing. Now, these are Wale Edun's words. When you look at the national scene, look at the international scene, there's literally really nowhere to run to, at this time. So it is best if Nigeria would look inwards and try to solve its own problem. I think this is the attention that Wale Edun is trying to call the federal government to at this time.
Well, if the federal government is committed to changing the narrative of consistently borrowing to fund, frivolities, to fund leisure, to fund the luxury lifestyle of some few Nigerians who have been appointed into government offices, then they're going to be able to do that. But if on the other part they're also not committed to doing that, then it's still going to be a problem. But if there is anything that we can take away from, what Wale Edun is advising at this point, is that Nigeria have borrowed enough, and Nigerians are tired of hearing the incessant borrowing when we cannot look back and trace the projects and the facilities or the infrastructural development or the economic vibrancy that has been brought about by the borrowings of the federal government. But beyond that, we'll also like to see policy direction get towards increasing revenue that is being collated in Nigeria. Let's not forget as far as Nigeria is concerned, there are billions of Nigerians' money that are in the hands of firms that have not been collected as revenue. So what about the government focus more on making sure there is strict compliance, total compliance when it comes to revenue generated in the country? And you start from there. When you have access to all the revenue that is being generated, those money comes in as at when due. Then you also cut the cost of getting the revenue, which is also eating a bigger chunk of the money that should have gone to the coffers of the government. Then you can look at diversifying the country's economy. I mean, we cannot continue to depend on oil. We need to get to, all the investment that is being touted by the present administration, all the deals that have been signed, the solid mineral sector, the agricultural sector, other sectors of the economy can be revamped. I mean, the tech space is literally still there waiting to be harnessed in the interest of Nigerians and the Nigerian government. So when we put in all of this into consideration and take, decisive actions and normalize the business working environment, then we are going to get to where a point where we do not have to depend solely on borrowing, and probably get to the other side where we also can be the ones, lending money to other countries of the world. But moving away from that, we see that the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, His Excellency Peter Obi, in the just concluded 2023 presidential election, has asked the federal government, in the person of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, to disclose the assets and deficits the President Bola Tinubu inherited from the past administration of ex-President Muhammadu Buhari. Of course, in a series of posts on X, formerly known as Twitter, yesterday, Obi, who is a former Anambra State governor, said Nigerians deserve to know and that governance is about transparency and strict accountability. Now, this is coming to haunt the federal government. Remember, in recent days, Ahmed Bola Tinubu has really hammed on, hinge his administration and restated the commitment to be accountable to Nigerians, to be transparent to Nigerians, to run an all-inclusive government in Nigeria. Now, this is the time for Ahmed Bola Tinubu to clarify what he stated when he said he met an empty treasury and then, of course, some assets. So what Peter Obi is asking reflects the generality of the questions Nigerians are asking. If you're saying you met an empty treasury, you're saying you inherited a lot of liabilities and a few assets, let Nigerians know a list of the liabilities that you inherited, a list of the assets that you inherited, and then be able to total all of the things that your administration comes to meet. And then at the end of the day, when we match what you came in to meet and what you are leaving behind in 4 years or in 8 years, Nigerians will be able to see and measure for themselves the significant improvement that you have brought to the country within your tenure in office.
Well, at this time, it's not a surprising thing, because that's the first thing that came to the table when we are talking about the presidency declaring that they met quite a strong deficit in terms of federal government treasury and, assets and all of that. When you begin to have that conversation 6 months into, being in charge of the affairs of a nation, it calls for a lot of questioning. Why are we just hearing about that? And we had raised the issue of handover notes and handover documents made by the Buhari-led administration. All of the weeks that, preceded Bola Ahmed Tinubu's coming as the President of the Federal Republic, what are the things that were embedded in those documents? And then when you say that you met quite a deficit in terms of the treasury, like, Peter Obi of the Labour Party is saying, let's know to what extent exactly the problem is. How have you functioned in the last 6 months if there was such an empty treasury? Remember that the bulk of borrowings that have been done so far by the Federal Republic under Tinubu has basically been to cushion the effect of subsidy removal, also an initiative that was kick-started by the Buhari-led administration. The first tranche of that borrowing was initiated by the past government. So when you are saying your treasury is empty, what have you done in the past 6 months? Are you trying to say you have not done anything at all using money for capital-intensive projects? Or all of these things have also been just photo ops and, promises and media, propaganda to make it look like you're working? Is he going to stand up and take the bait by Peter Obi of the Labour Party now asking him to declare publicly what exactly was handed over to him? Now we don't know. All we can say at this point is that the likes of Peter Obi of the Labour Party are beginning to serve the onion as, an opposition voice in Nigeria. Let's try to call out the Tinubu-led administration and the APC to make sure that they're living by the words that they had promised during campaigns, things that they have said Nigerians should uphold them by. But the biggest question at this point is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu going to take the bait thrown out by Peter Obi, candidate of the Labour Party in the just concluded cycle of election? Is he really going to come out to tell us what exactly, the Buhari-led administration left for him in the treasury? And I think it should go without a saying that these kinds of things should be in public domain. Francis, we should have, once governance is transiting from one party to the other, from one hand to the other, it should be clear, because it's not finance or treasury that is for selected few in the country. It belongs to the collective nationality of Nigerians. Let it be out there. This is what our country is worth at this time. This is how much we are indebted. I mean, Wale, just speaking in the last story we're talking about, said we use 95% of our revenue to service debt. Since we know that we use 95% of our revenue to service debt, let us know what we use the other 5% for. Out of that 5%, let's know what Buhari-led administration left for you. All of this information should be in the public domain, where Nigerians can, literally track where the economy is headed because of the information that we have. I think Peter Obi has done a smart one by calling out. But if the presidency is going to take this bait, that's the next big question.
Well, is it a bait or is it a demand that Nigerians deserve to know? That is something we also have to clarify. Some persons will call it bait. I mean, literally the APC family will call it a bait. Of course, begin to make suggestions and comments as to why the federal government cannot respond or why this information cannot be made available. But the reality on ground is, if you are running a transparent government, if your focus is accountability to the generality of Nigerians, if inclusive governance is what you intend to run for the next 4 years, then it is critical, it's very important, it is sacrosanct on the government of Ahmed Bola Tinubu as the president to lead by example. And how would you lead by example? I mean, we are talking about the fact that directors in MDAs and people who have been entrusted with those responsibilities are refusing to come out to show accountability in their respective ministries. And just yesterday, the National Assembly frowned at it and the move, and are calling for a measure that will help to solve the trend. But can we have a change in the narrative? The answer is totally yes. Where should it start from? It should start from the presidency. Let Nigeria knows exactly what is happening with their finances. Let us know exactly what we are owing. what those funds were borrowed for, what is the level of those projects. I mean, Nigerians reacted with mixed feelings yesterday when the National Assembly said they were going to ensure monitoring of projects across the country, particularly roads, and they were going to ensure that the monitoring starts from the beginning and follows through the end of the project. Yes, it's a welcome development, but let's also look at the cost of monitoring these roads. Are we going to have another kind of money being voted for, monitoring and evaluation of ongoing projects? Or this is part of the things that have been factored already to the emoluments and take-homes of these, legislators who are going to be involved in this oversight function? Now, we need to understand all of this, but if the federal government of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu is really committed to accountability, transparency, and inclusive governance, this is the time for it to show that it is committed. The information account should be, made available publicly. I remember the conversation we had just, I think, 2 or 3 months back when one of the National Assembly members was advocating for the laws in the country to be published on a website and updated as the new laws are being made, as the changes are being made to the law. And what was his reason? The fact that even lawyers themselves do not have a full compendium, of all the cases and all the laws in the country. So if lawyers themselves do not have a full grasp of all the laws in the country, they're not fully aware of some of the changes happening, and there is no single document that contains the generality of the laws of this country, it raises a whole lot of questions, and possibly one of the reasons we are having misinterpretations within the judiciary system. So it is time for President Ahmed Bola Tinubu to lead by example, let the accounts be known to Nigerians, and let Nigerians begin to follow and have evidence of what he came in to inherit, what he inherited from the former President Muhammadu Buhari, and what he is doing, so that we can, at the end of the day, put side by side what has changed and what hasn't changed, and then begin to, analyze and review the performances of this present administration.
It will also tailor our expectations of, the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration in this first year, because when you go beyond the first year, then you have had ample time to learn the ropes of how it's currently working in Nigeria to generate your own funds. But it has, barely another 6 months to make it a year for him to be able to, really have his roots down in that manner. So let him let us know, so that when Nigerians...
Does the president really need 1 year to know where his legs are? I mean,
we are talking in terms of where he knows best to put his energy to generate funds, because it's funds we are talking about. You can have the excuse of, when they come into power, they inherit everything. They will tell you that they inherited a lot of insecurity problems, they inherited a lot of financial issues, and it's placing a demand on him. It's still adjusting with his cabinet. Like you rightly said this morning, the minister's already giving excuses.
These are excuses already being made, and the last thing Nigerians need is for us to also make excuses for the president or his members of cabinet, because when we do that, then we are fanning the excuse system for them. We are encouraging them to, sit back. I mean, I think I've forgotten the country whose prime minister was just instituted just 4 days ago. And after 4 days, the young man already knows what his, office is supposed to do. He knows the responsibility. He knows his role. And he's settling into taking care of those responsibilities. So we can't wait for people who come into offices, for people who come into office and have to wait for months before realizing what their responsibilities are, or even taking actions, especially for an administration where the president said he had long been prepared and had taken a lot of time to choose the people he felt or he believes are going to help him achieve the renewed hope agenda in the interest of Nigerians. So literally, there should be no grounds for excuse. But that's where we put a pause on the flash news and head out to our major stories.
Rise and shine. Rise and shine. Rise and shine.
Of course, this is still Rise and Shine. And let's look at our major stories for this morning. This one is indeed a major story because it's a trend, like I said earlier, that we're beginning to see on the landscape of Africa, where we're seeing African leaders put the knife to their own throat, first of all, before trying to see how they can level up things for their citizens. We've seen that move with William Ruto in Kenya. We've seen, this move in several other African nations. And now we're seeing it move all the way to Malawi also, where we see the president directing that there should be cuts in travels and fuel, donations to cabinet members. Sometimes that when you see certain news, you literally want to stand up and clap. And then you're saying, do African leaders, is our presidency, is our National Assembly really seeing what their sister nations are doing?
Well, it's a cause for concern. It's congratulations to President Lazarus Chakwera and, of course, the people of Malawi for, the giant stride. I mean, making that move to cut down fuel supply to government officials, making the move to, restrict movement, traveling outside the shores of the country. Ministers who are currently outside of Malawi
have been asked to return home
to the country. So come back home and do the duty you were meant to do. I mean, cutting down fuel as well is literally about a move to cut down the cost of governance and, of course, reduce the burden on the finances of government and further rechannel that to bettering the lives of the people of Malawi. So that is a great step. And like you asked, Nigerians would wish to hear this coming from President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. Can President Ahmed Bola Tinubu say, I am cutting down my salary by 50%? I'm cutting down, I'm directing or moving an executive order, I'm signing an executive order, cutting down the salaries and, the emoluments, the things that accrues to National Assembly members and politicians, appointees of government across board by 50%, by 60%, by 70%. And then, of course, we're cutting down the fuel supply. Remember, when the interracial issue surfaced, it was all about the fact that most politicians who would drive very expensive, exotic cars that consume fuel, do that because they are not the ones buying the fuel. If they were the ones, they probably would have cut down on the trips, they would have cut down on the expenses, would have cut down on the kind of car they want to go for, possibly cars that would conserve fuel like, the average Nigerians would do. But this is a move, this is an example set by Malawi and other countries who are following suit. And it's a clarion call on the leadership of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu to follow suit, especially when we have an empty treasury. I mean, this is one of the best news that can come from the federal government.
Absolutely. I like the way, absolutely like where you took it to. If we are crying out that we have an empty treasury and we do not have enough money to fund capital projects, I think where we should start from is that thing that all Nigerians have been clamoring for, cut down on how much you're earning and how much, you're putting on your needs as, service providers in the country. Just earlier on, this week, we saw that in Malawi, their currency was devalued by 44%, just to, lay up a landmark for them to be able to get and secure some loan by the IMF. We know that inflation has hit several countries of the world. Literally, it's an international thing. It's a global thing. It's not just about Nigeria. But the most important thing is how are other nations of the world, moving? What are the steps that they are taking to make sure that this inflation doesn't swallow the people? Now, Chakwera is saying in Malawi, let's cut down on our international trips and let's cut down on how much the federal government gives to public service holder, public office holders, in terms of fuel to run around. Let's cut these things down. As it's anticipated, there is a COP summit that is meant to be coming up later this month. It means he's not going to be attending and all of those kinds of things. But let us see how well this is going to be implemented also, even in Malawi. But in the first place, this is a really strong call that is being made by the president of Malawi at this time. Let's see how it's going to help them judiciously use their $175 million loan by the IMF. He's also saying that the government should find ways that they would increase the wage of workers in the country upon cutting down on all of these other things. Good one there. Of course, we have Victor Anilajo on standby this morning to join us. We promised you that he was going to come to conclude the conversation we were having with him yesterday. Good morning, Victor Anilajo. It's good to have you on the show this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning, Victor. You look very refreshed this morning.
Uh, or it's
Well,
my
I'm
it's my
laughing because
value.
I feel like I know the back end of that conversation. Well, of course, Victor Nilaju is the founder of EPE, himself a presidential aspirant in the 2023 round of elections. Of course, he's joining us from Lagos. Yesterday, the internet connectivity did not allow us to have a conversation. We're looking at the merger between proposed by the PDP presidential candidates Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. He's asked the NNPP, asked the Labour Party, and other political parties to come together, let them merge and, take out the APC governance. His worry is that we are moving gradually as a nation to a one-party system. Now, we saw the fact that the Labour Party actually okayed that move by Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. But the NNPP put a clause. They asked him, would he allow Kwankwaso of the NNPP to run in 2027? Victor, what are your thoughts about this merger in the first place? Is this a good move, made by Alhaji Atiku Abubakar? And do you think that his intentions are pure?
The truth about it is, like I said, parties are always interested in merging. But what we should ask ourselves as Nigerians, is it in the good of Nigeria, or is just for the politicians to still remain in power? I will tell you that merger is sponsored by APC to just tell Nigerians, you know what, let go of 2023. Let's just move ahead to 2027. But
Victor,
the
this
truth
is
about
something
it
you
is,
raised yesterday. That's something you were trying to raise yesterday also, saying that this merger is sponsored by APC. You need to
yes,
defend that and break it down.
yes. So APC have been trying to tell us, let's move on to 2027. Let's forget about the rigging, the brutality, the INEC failure, everything, the president not having the president having fake certificate, the president involvement in
Allegedly
fraud.
so. Allegedly so. It wasn't.
It's
I
not
mean, it wasn't
allegedly
founded.
now. They have not been able to give us the original of the results he dropped with INEC. If you cannot produce the original of a document, it tells you that document is fake. The university that he claimed that he attended said the INEC, the result that they tendered that Asiwaju dropped with INEC, they don't have that kind of results.
Okay, but let's
So
stay on course. Let's keep on
yes,
the path of
so
this merger.
what I'm trying to say is that it is an APC agenda to make Nigerians to be okay. 2023 is over. Let's move on. Let see. I'm a politician, and you know that, and also an entrepreneur. I know how these things are done. You want to get somebody that looks a little bit acceptable by the people to carry the message. So what they're just trying to do now is to use PDP to carry the message of let's move on. APC have tried to talk to the people, let's move on. The people are saying no. So they are bringing PDP now to say, okay, you can do this for us. And no politician does anything for free. That's something we need to understand. But the truth about it is that, just like I said, if we do not attend to the issues raised in 2023, there will be no be 2027. And we are already seeing it. Look at Kogi.
Well, we know that Victor is going to be back up in a moment to be able to have that particular conversation. We're looking at the fact that a merger had been proposed
So,
by the PDP. Okay, Victor is here back. Continue, please.
so look, just like I said, if they do not attend to the issue, if we cannot get justice for 2023 election, there will not be 2027. Look at Kogi, look at Imo, where there was no election, and they produced what is it called, results. That's what the APC have said going forward, making sure that the Nigerians don't come out to vote, making sure that Nigerians lose hope in the electoral process. This is an electoral process that it took us over a year to start preaching for young Nigerians to come out, and they came out, and their votes, they never count. And you are telling us to go to 2027. to do what? Is it 2027 votes that would not count? So what we are saying here is that the political party can merge, but of what benefit it is to us? You know that, like yesterday, I recommended for us that what we need to do is not even a measure. We need to come up with an agenda that we have to bring these politicians into a place where they will have to be working for us, the people. Just like you just announced now. Malawi president have asked their politicians that you dare not travel anyhow. Your cost of or your earnings will have to come down. Those are the agenda I mentioned yesterday. That the cost of which our politicians earn is too outrageous. It's fantastically, how am I going to put it now? Outrageous. How can you be living in a country where the economy is going down? You are still earning close to 200 and something million for one person. Only you
It's
will
actually
still
unheard of. It's actually
only
unheard of. We need to do a comparative analysis of how much, parliament members across the world actually earn, so that we know what exactly we are doing with ourselves. But, Victor, something else we need to look at is this variation of news with regards to, oh, the Labour Party saying they were okay with the merger proposal. But as of this morning, we have a lot more cutbacks, as to we are not interested, and, that particular merger is not going to see the light of day. What are your thoughts? I mean, you are an enthusiast of political parties, as it were. Do you think this would be a good move? Should the Labour Party, NNPP, and the other political parties take on this merger, or do you think that it is a Waterloo, package that is coming against the Nigerian politics?
the truth about it is that parties can merge, just like I said. So of what benefit? If the benefit is to push an agenda that I just raised now, it's okay, we have an agenda. We want the politicians to reduce their salary, their earning. We want
What's the agenda of a merger, if at all they decide to come together? I think that is a very big question. There must be a collective agenda they can also all agree on. All right, Victor, go ahead, please.
so if they have a clear-cut agenda that will benefit the people, that is directed towards the welfare and the protection of life and properties of the people, fine, I will embrace that kind of measure. But it seems to me that this measure is a measure of say, forget about 2023, let's move ahead. And I really want to say this, not because I'm biased, but it should be Peter Obi that should be leading this measure.
But no, Victor Nilaji, you actually cannot say that it should be, Peter Obi of the Labour Party. That's really sentimental as of now, because let's all look at it. As of yesterday's information, there was a postulation that NNPP had put on the table that they would rather want Rabiu Kwankwaso to be, flagged as the presidential face for that merger. Now, this is another thing that will be a problem. We are going to have a fight of political aspirations. Every one of them believe that they are the best thing to happen to Nigeria. When the merge, if at all it pulls through, who will go for the merger?
No, the truth about it that you and I know now, it's Peter Obi that is the best thing that happened to Nigeria completely.
That's a sentimental, what do they call it?
Statement.
Okay, Victor, let's come from this angle.
Which one of them have the highest followers? Which one of them have the highest support?
Those are social media numbers. Those are social media numbers. They're not enshrined in anything strong.
Seriously? Are you in this country and you are saying Peter Obi followers is the social media number?
All right.
Come on now.
Now, Victor, let's look at it this way. Let's say Peter Obi, by your assertions and the assertions of most Nigerians, is the authentic or should be the candidate that should be flagged. What would that mean for Nigeria's democracy? Do you think we're going to see the kind of momentum that we saw before, during, and after the 2023 elections?
For a start, we will not see it because a lot of people are discouraged. But I still feel that because they have hope in him, some people might start coming out to say, okay, Maybe there are some things we didn't do in 2023, maybe we'll do more in 2027. But let me tell you the truth, the Peter Obi that I know will not want to. He still believes that he won the 2023 election and he still wants justice to be served, which I believe strongly about. Because if there is no justice for 2023, there is no need talking about 2027. You can't tell people to forget about the injustice of yesterday and move on. I don't understand. So somebody else will come to the 27 and do the same thing and tell you, let's move on to 2011.
But Peter, Victor, His Excellency Peter Obi has already accepted this verdict of the Supreme Court,
which is the final court in the land.
Yes, which is the final, and he's also stated that he's going to stand as a strong opposition to this present administration while preparing his ground for 2027. Okay, he's already accepted that, in as much as he's also registered his displeasure with the way the court proceedings, the verdict from the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal and the Supreme Court went. He has accepted, what has happened. This, also commented on his displeasure. But let's move past all the drama, all the saga, and all the concerns about the Election Petition Tribunal, the Supreme Court verdict, to face 2027. Everybody in Nigeria, most persons in Nigeria are asking if we are going to get it correct. Both Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi, Rabiu Kwankwaso have also agreed that yes, there have been a problem with the judiciary, but we cannot stop fighting. We still have 2027, which is the next round of elections. So at this point in time, and I like to state that we cannot move away from the fact that the social media at this point is playing a very critical role. I mean, the obedient movement started more like a social media sensation, and then before we knew it, it became a physical setting, having structures down to local government areas, down to the ward level, to what transpired during the just concluded elections. But let's say, in the event of a merger, the Igbos or the Southeast are still clamoring for an Igbo president. Most Nigerians are saying, in the interest of justice, fairness, equity, we should also consider somebody from that region. But do you think Rabiu Kwankwaso, remember, during the just concluded elections, there was a rumor about a merger between Rabiu Kwankwaso and Peter Obi.
Yeah.
But the concern was about who is going to be the number one running for the presidency. So in the event of a merger, do you see Rabiu Kwankwaso, Atiku Abubakar being able to put their personal interest to support Peter Obi as the main candidate, and maybe one or either of them be taken as the deputy designate?
Well, like you said, I think for me, this is my own opinion and reasons, because I've seen antecedents, I've seen achievement, I've seen sincerity, I've seen purpose. I still believe in the candidacy of His Excellency Peter Obi. I still feel that Peter Obi will do more for us as a people. That's why I said what I said when I started. I said measure is good, but any measure that Nigerians will support is measure that will benefit Nigerians, right? And if you ask me, these three candidates, who do you think will bring benefits to Nigerians? I will just tell you, it's Peter Obi. It's not because it's Igbo, it's not because it's from the Southeast. We are looking at antecedents. We are looking at sincerity of purpose. We are looking at ability. Even the Kwankwaso have already committed himself with APC. Kwankwaso already have aligned himself with APC. So I'm not really about the Kwankwaso.
Okay, strong conversation this morning with Victor Anila. We've been trying to look into the merger purpose of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, but how is that going to go? As of this morning, there's divergent views from yesterday as to them agreeing and saying it was a good idea. This morning, Labour Party is saying they're not interested. NNPP says they're not considering. Who exactly is speaking the truth? Is this something that will be done? If it will be done, the biggest question is, which amongst them would be willing to put aside their personal ambition for the other person to go? Victor, I would just like for you to round off your thoughts this morning.
Okay, just like I said, I Kwankwaso is having an alliance with APC already. So Paul is already out of. Let's stick on His Excellency Peter Obi. Let's believe that he will be able to bring Nigerians to the level of where we will say we have good leadership.
But we have a
But
crop of
believe you
other
me,
people in the opposition, the likes of Sowore, a myriad of other people in the opposition, because this merger is not only asked for LP, NNPP, or PDP. There's ANC, there's all the other guys that, you know, went in for the election. It's not a three-party merger.
can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. I don't know if
Okay,
you were
see,
able to hear me. I'm saying the merger goes beyond Labour Party, NNPP, and PDP. There are other people who
yeah.
contested who are great minds too.
See, let's look at it as of today. We have front runners. We have those who we know are the front runners, and not just because we know they are front runners. We have seen their antecedents. Ask me, I will tell you that if Nigerians can stick to Peter Obi, we will be moving in the right direction, right? The likes of other persons that you have mentioned, for now, I don't see them as. In fact, most of them are not forming alliance with APC. That's something. But the truth about these whole things that we're saying is that I still remain one of the best candidates because I know that I have a policy that can solve Nigeria problem within the space of 6 months. Nigeria will be back.
So it means that, Victor, you should probably be considering a merger with, you know, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and the likes of them. Don't you think you should put your personal vision and aspiration to become the president of the Federal Republic also with this, you know, with this men?
Well, this well, my team is in discussion with His Excellency. But for Atiku Abubakar has made up his mind that he wants to be president of Nigeria, no matter what happens. So, if you want to merge with Atiku, he's not likely not going to allow you to be the forerunner. He's just going. He wants to be the president. And
would you be willing to put aside your personal ambition to be president of the Federal Republic to merge with any of these men if you were, you know, one of the frontline runners?
Well, for 2027, yes, maybe.
All right.
They still have 2027 to do whatever they want. But after 2027, I think their game is over.
All right, thank you so much, Victor Anulaju, for coming on the show this morning and sharing your wealth of knowledge and your personal thoughts on this merger move by the People's Democratic Party. Thank you, and do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having me. God bless.
All right, thank you so much. Of course, that's the much we can take on that particular conversation. We'll put a pause right here and head to the news brief desk where we have Mary Joseph to bring us tidbits of global news. When we return, there's a lot happening on Rise and Shine Friday. You don't want to go away. Stay with us.
For brilliant broadcasts and entertainment, sports on the go, and news around the world, watch Spectrum TV on StarTimes DTH channel 421 and free-to-air frequency 12733. Visit our website SpectrumTVLive.ng. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon. One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on Star Times to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
As of government, Secretary General, delegates.
Voting for Spectrum TV to improve for the lapses in counting.
A very good morning to you and welcome to your morning news break from Spectrum. Live from Uyo, I am Mary Joseph. We begin this morning with Nigeria's leader, President Bola Tinubu, who has returned to Nigeria after joining President Umaru Embalo and the government of Guinea-Bissau to celebrate their 50th independence anniversary and Armed Forces Day. President Tinubu arrived in Bissau about 6 a.m. yesterday for the ceremony and was warmly welcomed at the event, which he attended at the invitation of President Embalo. To health, the federal government has declared a state of emergency in the country's health sector. This has been highlighted as stakeholders across the sector converge on Ekiti State for the 64th National Council on Health, where salient issues around the health sector are up for discussion. The coordinating Minister for Health and Social Welfare, Dr. Mohammed Pate, said the nation's health facilities are in bad shape, adding that there is need for an urgent intervention. Away from that, the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Ola Olukayode, has charged youths across the country to know that there are good alternatives to corruption and crimes. He urged them to channel their creative energy into positive self-drive and entrepreneurial advancement. Olukayode gave the charge while addressing National Youth Service Corps members, Batch C, Stream 1 in Rivers State. We head straight now to the foreign scene, where a socialist leader, Pedro Sanchez, has clinched a vote in parliament to lead Spain for another term as prime minister. He has secured a 4-seat majority in the 350-seat chamber after sealing an amnesty deal for Palestinians. The Conservative Popular Party won election in July, but leader Alberto Nunes Figueiredo failed to form a majority. And in sports, the Super Eagles of Nigeria yesterday failed to beat Lesotho in the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier. The first half ended in 0-0 draw at the Gosolek Babio International Stadium in Uyo.
The match eventually ended in a 1-1 draw after full time as both teams shared a point each. Nigeria will now face Zimbabwe in the next game on Sunday. We'll have details of this and many more in our news at 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Rise and Shine where we have Uyai and Francis on standby. Do have a wonderful morning.
Government, Secretary General,
His Excellency voting for Spectrum TV to recover 40 lapses taken into counting.
For brilliant broadcasts and entertainment, sports on the go, and news around the world, watch Spectrum TV on StarTimes DTH channel 421 and free-to-air frequency 12733. Visit our website SpectrumTVLive.ng. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Every day marks a day of significance.
That in view of the apology tendered by this former minister who had earlier been cleared by this August Assembly,
as we face critical issues, developments and events which shape our social and political landscape here in Nigeria and beyond. Political Spectrum is a program specially designed to help make sense of all the moving parts of developments and occurrences in our nation's polity and political economy.
There is nothing wrong with Nigeria, but there's everything wrong.
The educational history of public figures holds significance beyond mere biographical details.
From executive, legislative and judicial developments at national and subnational levels to international diplomacy and relations.
Join us for exclusive interviews with key political figures, expert opinions, analysts, thought-provoking conversations for and against, shedding light on the major issues that matter. We will always keep you updated on the most factual, smartest and unbiased reportage.
Stay tuned to Political Spectrum. Political Spectrum. All sides matter at the round table. Political Spectrum. Exclusive to Spectrum Television.
Welcome back and thanks for joining us. It's still Rise and Shine. We're coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Of course, Mary Joseph just brought us tidbits of global news and some of the issues we've already looked at on Rise and Shine this morning. Quite a number of things, and we've also looked at the merger proposition by the PDP presidential candidate, but we see that the federal government has declared a state of emergency in the health sector. Of course, also the Senate summoned the service chiefs and demanded a rejig in the security sector. Something else that we see, the fact that Wale, the Minister of Economy, has said that Nigeria cannot rely on borrowing for the 2024 budget. Of course, we also see the fact that Peter Obi of the Labour Party is asking the President and the Presidency to declare openly the bankruptcy claim that they had picked up. Talking about the fact that the Treasury was empty and they picked up bad assets from the past administration. Peter Obi is asking them to make it pop and plain. We also see here that Malawian president has directed a cut in travel expenses and fuel to himself and his cabinet members. Of course, President Chakwera right there. These are some of the conversations that we've had so far, Rise and Shine. At this point, we'll be joined by our guest, Dr. Yahuza Getso, who's a security expert in Nigeria. And we are going to be looking at the security architecture of the Bola Ahmed administration. So far, so good. What's really happening with security in the country? There's been a lot of conversation this morning. The NSA boss, Ribadu, is saying that Nigerians should exercise patience, that, all of the insecurity issues cannot be solved in a day. He has also said the fact that insecurity has reduced under the dispensation of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But let's see what Dr. Getso has to say about this particular issue this morning. We'll see. We'll just head to our papers whilst we wait for a signal on Dr. Yahuza being able to join us. Let's just take the papers whilst we wait.
Well, on Daily Spotlight, we're kick-starting with the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. The chief of the stories there is editors confab why kidnapping has replaced armed robbery. That is according to the NSA. Still on the front page of Vanguard, we see FJS CO case 22 justices for elevation to Supreme Court. Stories on page 8. Editors confab fireworks as stakeholders interrogate national security. Threat to elections, media reforms. Page 8 has the story. Appeal court declares Zamfara governorship elections inconclusive. Page 13 has the story. MTF SSP, we can't continue borrowing to fund Nigeria's budget. Wale Edun. These are the major stories you find on the front page of Vanguard this morning.
Moving on from the Vanguard this morning, our very next paper is going to be the Daily Trust. A big story there, appeal court sacks Zamfara governor, orders we run in 3 local government areas. Francis, I think we saw this news earlier this morning and we are like, is it that March 18, gubernatorial election that we're still talking about? But that's it in Zamfara State. The governor that was declared winner has been sacked by the appeal court and they have ordered a rerun in 3 local government areas. We also see here Kano, Bauchi government no fate today. Panic foodstuff buying Kano over fear of violence. Police warn against wild jubilation in Bauchi. 613 families of deceased police officers get 2.2 billion naira. Bayelsa, Imo, Kogi polls. Vote buying, intimidation, disturbing, says peace committee. Bandits kill mother and newborn, others in Sokoto. Really, really sad story. Dollar hits 1,105 at official market. Garden egg vendor defiles 9-year-old orphan in Kano. Very sad story there. Strike Importers incurred 90,000 naira daily demurrage on cargoes. That's what we have on the front page of Daily Trust.
Well, that takes us to the front page of the Nation newspaper. The kicker there says, Ribadu, government winning battle against oil theft banditry. Of course, oil production has risen to 1.7 barrels per day. Senate and Vice Service chiefs for briefing. Still on the front page of the Nation, federal government can rely on loans to fund 2024 budget, says Minister. Page 5 has the story. 2023 polls, why INEC experience internal sabotage. Sultan hails marking day for building mosques in Ibadan. Page 5 and 27 has the story. Adeleke suspends CJ despite court order. Page 5 has the story. 31 EXCO members pass confidence vote in Akredolu. These are the major stories you find on the front page of the Nation this morning.
Moving on, we'll take our very last paper for this morning, and that is the Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune this morning, the big story there says anxiety in Kano, Plateau as court orders rerun in Zamfara, 3 local governments affected. And we also see here why we are against borrowing to finance 2024 budget, says Finance Minister. South, East, North, Central get 3 new Supreme Court justices each. Of course, out of the 22 that have been nominated for those positions, as FJC nominates ex-CJN's son, 21 others for elevation. Page 10. We also see here splinter group emerges in Edo PDP. Page 12. Insecurity, reps turn back representatives, insist service chiefs must appear. Page 5. Osun governor suspends CJ, appoints Afolabi to act. Page 10 is where you can find details. 22 bodies not discovered in grave site in Anambra, Truth Commission. Page 26. 80-year-old woman dies in Lagos building collapse. Page 26, very sad story that we have there. 60-year-old retired banker makes first class, wins 8 awards at UI convocation. Page 10 is where we can have that detail. Last story here says we inherited tough period, says Ribadu, as at editors conference. Page 12. That's the story on insecurity, and that's all we have there.
Well, of course, a whole lot of stories on the front pages of our national dailies this morning, still focusing on insecurity and the need to fight insecurity. The NSA comment, of course, asking Nigerians to be patient, that the problem is not going to go away in just a couple of days after they have taken over office. Well, Nigerians are hoping this does not become the deliberate attempt to begin to, make excuses, so that by the time, they're over and done with the administration, the first 3 years of the target set by President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, we will not be hearing, oh, we had already told you at the first instance that, these are not issues that are going to go away anytime soon. So we've done the best we could within the time that we had, but this is the situation that we still find ourselves as a country, regardless of how much efforts have been put in place. We do hope this does not become a trend of excuses already by appointees of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, because that would be a very sorry, sad state to begin with in the country, particularly at the point where insecurity has robbed Nigeria and Nigerians of so much, in the dealings of insecurity. Of course, we're talking about kidnapping still being very rampant in the country. We're talking about banditry. We're talking about, farmers being murdered in their farms and villages being sacked. And of course, while hoping to get to the level of commitment that will change the narrative, Nigerians expect the very best, and still will also commend the leadership of the different security agencies, pending when, we see a lot more transformation. But we'll take a pause here and we'll take a short time out. When we come back, today is International Students' Day. And of course, as far as students are concerned, there are a lot of issues bordering on their growth, their welfare, and particularly in Nigeria, a whole lot is happening with the move by the federal government to, prioritize tertiary education and also take some 40% of internally generated revenue from the institutions. But how is this going to affect the average Nigerian student in terms of tuition and other things that has to do with their welfare. We're going to find out a lot more, particularly focusing on Akwa Ibom State and the Arise Agenda and its plans and roles for the educational sector as championed by Governor Pastor Umoino. What is his policy direction? What is his statement? What is his commitment? And how is the person that has been, appointed to help guide the government in this direction? Talking about the personal assistant to the governor on student affairs, working round the clock to ensure that Akwa Ibom students are well catered for, particularly during these harsh economic realities. We will be coming back once we return with Comrade Wisdom Emmanuel, who is the PA to the Governor on Student Affairs. To stay with us, we'll be right back.
For brilliant broadcasts and entertainment, sports on the go, and news around the world, watch Spectrum TV on StarTimes DTH channel 421 and free-to-air frequency 12733. Visit our website SpectrumTVLive.ng. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
For brilliant broadcasts and entertainment, sports on the go, and news around the world. Watch Spectrum TV on StarTimes DTH channel 421 and free-to-air frequency 12733. Visit our website spectrumtvlive.ng. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Thanks for still being there. It's the Friday edition of Rise and Shine, and we're still beaming from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria, just in case you don't know where that is. Of course, several conversations have gone on the show this morning. One way to catch up on all that we have talked about is to follow us across all social media platforms, all of which you can find at Spectrum TV Live. We're currently streaming the show on YouTube, so you can always go back on all the conversations that we've had on issues bothering the country at this time. But we're being joined by the personal assistant to the governor of Akwa Ibom State, Pastor Moino on student affairs in the person of Wisdom Emmanuel. Of course, today is the International Students' Day, and we're going to be looking into the affairs of students in the Akwa Ibom state government that stretches a little bit to the national scene. What are the expectations for students at this time? Good morning, Wisdom Emmanuel.
Good morning, my dear.
How was your journey to Spectrum Television?
It was very wonderful.
It was very wonderful.
It was wonderful.
Well, at this point, we'd like to send you as an envoy to the governor.
Okay.
Just to help us tell the governor that there is this great station you went to that absolutely does not have road.
Okay.
I'd like to tell you that.
I think I saw that when I was coming.
You saw it.
But I think it will be improved on.
It has to. Please, you people have had wisdom. All right, today's International Students' Day. On the overall, we wonder how come we have a day that is set aside to celebrate students. It's the learning process, the curve that is meant to be celebrated at that level. Now, when you see the United Nations set aside a day like this, what does it mean to the students' community?
Well, I must say it means so much for all of us that are students. You know, education is actually the bedrock of every society. And since the international bodies have set aside this very day to celebrate students, it means a whole lot for us. I don't really want to go into history of how international students they started, but this day over time has been very wonderful. It's a day that we get to, you get united again as one body to celebrate our diversity and unite ourselves in one accord to see the progress we have done so far and what we can do in few years or few years to come. Yeah, so that is it.
All right, so we're looking at the goals that we can have as students.
All right.
Let's bring it down to the Arise agenda. The Arise agenda has a lot of things. That's the acronym for the things that the governor of Akwa Ibom State and Pastor Governor Moino intends to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's find in the Arise acronym where does education sit, and what's the goal and agenda of the governor with regards to education in Akwa Ibom?
Okay. The Arise agenda. In the Arise agenda, education is actually one of the topmost priority of the Arise agenda, especially the governor of the state. And so far, you can notice what is happening in the state right now. Just in a very few months in office, the governor of the state has really done so much for the students of Akwa Ibom State. And then a lot has been done already in the education sector. You can see from the remodeling of the Christ the King primary school at Wellington Basiwe, with an audio and visual learning facilities for students there. Even for the students, I think that is also happening to in other local government. I think one at Eket, and then one at Ewet, Orange Street off Waniba Road. So a lot of things are really happening in the education sector, and the governor is someone that loves education. He loves education so much. So that's why he's putting so much strength in developing the people of Akwa Ibom State through education. He's very concerned about human resource development.
Human resource development
Yeah.
is a really strong way for us to help grow a nation and grow a people. Like you rightly said, education is the bedrock of every society. But let's see. Yes, you have, you've laid out some of the things that the governor is currently doing in the state.
There's so many that he has done. Yeah.
You have laid out, just a few of
yeah.
these things. But let us also look at students' welfare.
Okay.
The economy has really been tight, and then in the course of this year, we have had that front and back with there was an intention to increase tuition fees in the federal schools, and we saw how the whole nation went agog. We had parents crying out as to where they were going to find funds. So let's talk about student welfare in the face of current day realities. How is the school environment for students now?
Okay, it's not really fair enough for students because of the high price of petroleum, the fuel, high cost of things in the country right now. But the governor of the state, in his magnanimity, has made provision for bursary payment. He has approved it for students across board. The students of Akwa Ibom State in public tertiary institutions across the country. We are already working, like the process is going to be online. It's going to be, if you have been checking the media space for a while now, you're going to get to find out that the governor has done so well already. He has reached out to as many, like through me, he has reached out to so many universities already to get to have the database of students, and then from there get to pay them some amount of money that will help a little bit alleviate what the stress that they're actually going through in school. The bursary payment has long been suspended in the state, but I thank God that when the governor came in, I think that was the 3rd month in office, he had to, kickstart the bursary payment for students. And not just that, he also gave some amount of money for Master Ekanem Udeme, bankrolled him into law school, I think about 5 million naira, and then also made provision for 250,000 naira monthly stipends for him. He just told me that a few days ago, he just told me he's about to go to law school, that he's very happy that what the governor did for him is what has actually kept his hope alive till today. So the governor has done so much in terms of education and trying to see how we can get to alleviate this stress from students. He has done so much, and I believe there are more and more that is to come. Even the other time he mentioned that he's going to send few students outside the country to go and learn, and then come back and then show us, the people in Akwa Ibom State, get to train other people that are also here in Akwa Ibom State.
More
get
like
to
train
work.
the trainer.
Yeah. So
okay.
that is,
So when you're talking bursary, we know that in the days of our parents, it was a big thing and it was consistent. But like you said, for a while in Akwa Ibom State, it has not been happening. When you say that the governor has reached out to students, is it just Akwa Ibom students schooling in Akwa Ibom, or we're going to have Akwa Ibom students schooling nationwide being, beneficiaries of this bursary?
Akwa Ibom students schooling nationwide in public tertiary institutions, anywhere in the country that you have, like a public institution, anywhere in the country, if you're a student of Akwa Ibom State, you are eligible to get this bursary.
So why are students of private universities from Akwa Ibom not eligible?
They are in a way eligible for now. It's just that that is the consideration for now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the consideration for now. But I think we are trying to see how we can get at least the private schools within the state to be part of that process.
So the kickoff is going to be with Akwa Ibom students nationwide in public universities.
Yes.
And then probably the ones in private universities will be considered in Akwa Ibom State until we can begin to spread.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So let's also look at quality of education. Infrastructure is a major issue when we are talking about education. So it's not just about that. Thankfully, the governor is doing something about welfare. Now, in terms of infrastructure, we know that we have the Akwa Ibom State University, and then we have the University of Uyo, which is a federal university. Then we have quite a number of polytechnics. We have a college of education. So when we are talking about education, it's holistic, and you may be representing, you are representing education at all cadre. So we're looking at secondary education, we're looking at primary education. Some of which you have said the governor is currently looking at its infrastructure. But let us look at infrastructure at the university level. What is the commitment of the state governor to see that it is improved upon? How are we taking advantage of global and international funding to see that infrastructure is developed upon? It's one thing to also build these facilities. It's another thing to make available resources for research. How is that going under this administration?
Okay, like I said earlier on, apart from the bursary for students of Akwa Ibom State, and then 100 million intervention fund for persons living with disabilities. I think I did not mention that earlier on.
Okay.
I think that process will also, their check will be given to them, the first batch of students will be given to them, I think, on Monday.
Great.
Yeah. So that, apart from that, the welfareism of students, we are talking about infrastructures right now. I said earlier on that there's a construction, right? Like it's almost, they're almost completing it right now. Christ the King Model School, he has renovated it completely with audio and visual learning materials for students, the pupils there in that school, the students in that school. And then this cuts across all the senatorial districts in Akwa Ibom State. Now, few weeks ago, the governor visited Akwa Ibom State University. I think there's an ongoing construction of Akwa Ibom State University Teaching Hospital, which will actually help bring another medical school into the state. We only have one medical school right now. That's the University of Uyo. Yeah, in the University of Uyo, making use of the University of Uyo Teaching Hospital. But very soon we are going to, with the infrastructural development, the fast infrastructural development in the state, we also have Akwa Ibom State University Teaching Hospital that will also help bring in students from different part of the world to come study medicine and surgery and other science-related courses in the university and the Akwa Ibom State University. That cuts across every other university. Even I think there's another university that the governor just inspected some months ago at Ikotabasi, Federal Polytechnic. Yes, so that has been ongoing, and is doing so much to make sure that we are developed through education.
Development through education.
Yes.
When you talk about this 100 million bailout that is to be given to students living with disability, what is the goal of that particular bailout? What does the governor hope that it is going to achieve for them? Because one thing is, they said that when the aim of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. It's one thing to just give money and then people know, oh, the government gives us money and we can just eat it. What is the goal? What does the government, what are they hoping to achieve by giving out this bailout?
Okay, I can remember a certain time, this all started long before he emerged as the governor of the state.
Okay.
And then he was the commissioner. He came into University of Uyo, partnered with the student union. Then I was the student union president, University of Uyo. He partnered with the student union government to donate wheelchairs, crutches, braille papers, relief materials for persons living with disabilities in the university. And I think that one really struck him so much that he had to still continue doing it when he got into office. I think that was within 1 month in office. He just invited that particular cluster, persons living with disabilities, to have a meeting with him. And then he offered to give them 100 million. And before then, when he was still a commissioner, he also paid school fees for some of them. I think about 30 of the students living with disabilities. So what he's trying to do with this intervention fund is to make life very easy for the persons living with disabilities. It's not actually very easy for them to cope within campuses. Yes, I'm a science student. I know what it is mentally for those people to be in an environment where other people are physically able to do whatever they want to do. It is very tasking and very difficult for them. So the governor understands the plight of these people and then decided to go in-depthly into providing an intervention fund so that they can be able to go to school freely. Some of them they might be weak. Some of them they might be in the hospital or in the house. They don't even want to go back to school again. But with this intervention fund, many of them, I think they've been calling. And we also have a PA to governor on persons with disabilities that will take charge of all of them. So he has done a lot for them. He's trying to see how everybody can be inclusive. All-inclusive government. That is what is really after.
An all-inclusive government.
Yes.
Okay, this is good. I think another thing we can look at the acceptability of students in Akwa Ibom State to the things that the governor is doing. Wisdom. I hope it's not a matter of, you are the PA to the governor on, education matters in Akwa Ibom State. I hope it's not the people of your immediate circle. Like the friends of the friends of the bridegroom are the ones enjoying.
No.
Because that's what I'm going to ask. The average student in tertiary institutions, especially in Akwa Ibom State now, do they know that they have a personal assistant to the governor on education matters? And how is your influence cutting across tertiary institutions in Akwa Ibom? How are you able to convey, the needs, the requests, and the demands of the student body to the to the governor?
Okay, the governor is a very friendly governor. He's very accessible at any time. At any time you want to reach out to him. That is why he had to take it upon himself to do certain things. If you observe, he does many of the projects. He goes there to see that the project is ongoing. And still the same thing he does to humans, the people that are close to him, his personal assistants. He gives you that open door for you to be able to express yourself to him as a father, not just as a governor, as a father. And over time he has been doing this. And that is why it's actually very easy for me at this time to be able to assess him and tell him, okay, these are the problems that students are facing. And then he gets to give me the response that I need, and timely response upon that. So he's very open-minded, he's very accessible, he's very lovely, and he's a fatherly person. He's a pastor.
So how are you taking this back to the students community? If you have good access to the governor and you're able to tell let him know their needs, when you come back, how is your approach to the students body, the impact of you being his personal assistant?
Okay, we have clusters, different student leadership clusters across board. We have National Association of Nigerian Students, we have National Association of Akwa Ibom State Students, we have National Association of Akwa Ibom State medical students, NAKIMS. We have NAUS, we have ACG, we have Traditional Rulers, Student Traditional Rulers Council. So you call them, I think that was 2 weeks ago that I had to call them for a meeting. Every time, I think on monthly basis, we call for meetings and then we get to discuss what we have done so far as leaders in the students community to create impact in the lives of other students that are not really close to the government. And then we get to also have a feedback and have to give a listening ear to them to get to know what is really their problem at that time so that we will be able to solve it immediately for them. So that is how we go about it. We have different measures, different routes we get to reach out to students, and we have monthly meetings to get to that helps us relate some of this information to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So today being the International Students' Day, what are you doing? What is the state government doing to mark today for students? Or it wasn't, there was no blueprints, no straight out, mapped out event. What are we doing to mark the International Students' Day?
Well, yeah, the governor is very aware of the international students there.
Okay.
And he told me because of his engagement for now, I think we are still going to mark this day, but on a very different day.
Okay.
Yes, because of his engagement today.
Can we hold your word to it?
Yeah, very well, very well.
And then if you're looking at marking at International Student Day in Akwa Ibom, what do you see? On what rules of engagement would you want to have that kind of event? What would you be looking at if you were to set up an event to mark today's International Student Day in Akwa Ibom?
Okay, I think we'll just have to focus on what is really there in the arrest agenda.
Okay.
The governor is, apart from the human resource development, education and the rest, we also have the areas, we have leadership programs, get to talk to students and advise them against antisocial behaviors, that is social vices and all of those, drug addicts and all of those kind of behaviors. We take their mind, cause a mind shift to take their minds away from it. That's number one. Number two, the governor is an entrepreneur, is the lead entrepreneur in this state. We want to see get to have an avenue that we can actually get to build some of our students. Many of them, about 70 to 80% of students are entrepreneurs, student entrepreneurs. So we get to, and some of these people, they get to get this influence from the lifestyle of the person that is actually leading us today. That's Pastor Moino, the governor of the state. So we get to engage, get to bring business people that are entrepreneurs that have done so well already in their different fields, to be a mentor, like to mentor some of these people that actually have this drive, this love for entrepreneurship. We get to bring them together to mentor them, and then actually get to see what the students have. Students get to pitch their businesses, and then get to see what we can do for them at that level. And then just to connect them. And then also students, many of the students, when they leave school, they don't have jobs. We now let some companies know that, okay, these are the class of students that we have. We partner some of these students with different companies still in that program. Partner some of these students in those different companies and tell them, okay, this is what we have for this time, this is what we have for this time, this is what we have for this time. At least with these little measures we have taken so far, it will actually help people to get into maybe get jobs on time instead of having to wait for government to do certain things for them. But we are actually doing that. We are partnered a lot with different NGOs already to get this done. So yeah, so that is just it.
Well, it's been such a great conversation with Wisdom Emmanuel, the personal assistant to the governor of Akwa Ibom State, Pastor Governor Moino, on student matters, student affairs. Of course, today we've been marking the International Student Day. And we've been looking at how the commitment of the state government and governor have been for and towards education in the state. Such great time. Thank you so much for coming on the show this morning.
Thank you.
It's been great. We hope that you take our word back to the governor. Let's hope that we have good roads to bring more students for more talks some other time.
We will, definitely.
Thank you so much.
It's
been a great day and a great ride with you, our very esteemed viewers, all the way from Monday, today being Friday. This is the last of what we bring to you on Rise and Shine Daily. Until we return to your screens again next week, Monday, do have a very, very splendid weekend and enjoy the rest of our programming. My name remains Uyai Anyeken. Bye-bye and God bless you.